What's going on, everybody? Welcome to After Prison Show, and today I've got a really special guest. This is a good prison friend of mine by the name of Yonni. Yonni, hey, how the hell are you, brother?
So that's what you consider me, just a prison friend?
No, you're definitely more than just a prison friend. You're a good friend of mine. And Yonni was actually part of a video that I did like a year and some change ago called Funny Millionaire Prison Scooter Guy. Do you remember this video, Yonni?
And we talked about this for literally 2 years while we were locked up. I mean, there's not a lot to do, and I'm sure that Joe's talked about that. I do. It was a blast. I had a blast making it. It was really fun. And it was back when your show was really sort of like brand new.
And I really had high hopes to keep you around. I really wanted to do more videos with you, not just that one that we did. But obviously things would happen and you would end up going back to jail. But what I want to focus on in this video is this year that you actually just spent locked up.
Yeah, life sort of got in the way. Never in my wildest nightmares did I think that, after everything was going in such a smooth direction, we were both sort of starting up our own individual, endeavors, entrepreneurial pursuits.
You had your own business before you got locked up.
Doing great.
It doesn't mean that you can't get back out here and get all of these things back for yourself. And real quick, I want to just let you know how long Yonni has been home from jail.
Yeah, so I've been out hours, not even a day. I literally have not. We're within the first 24 hours of me getting out. So yeah, this is fresh.
And what is it like? Like, talk to me about how you're feeling.
It's sensory overload. If you've ever seen any of those shows like Lock Up or 60 Days In, if they're in a city jail, typically they're in a pod which has anywhere from 10 to 20 rooms, and you've got X number of people, 5 to 10 people per room, and it's wide open, and you have space. And in Chesapeake City Jail's case, there are microwaves, there's a washer and dryer. There are 6 phones, there's 2 televisions. Where I was at, it was 1 TV through the bars. Your eyes, that's another big adjustment I've had to make, because your eyes begin to cross after a while, because everything that I see in terms of the television, medical personnel, the Chesapeake deputies, it's all viewed
through those bars.
Yeah, through multiple sets of bars. You don't ever get a clean look at anything.
And I spent plenty of time in this 87 section of the jail that Yonni's speaking of. I can vouch for it firsthand.
Yeah, and there's no so the washer and dryer, dead. The microwave, dead. So even something like drinking a cup of coffee. I could be upstairs in the jail and have a warm cup of coffee. That's an option I have. If I make something to eat, I can heat it up. If I want to go out and get some fresh air, I can go to the gym. Now, it's not an open air gym. In terms of like we're being outside, but there's fresh air coming in. You can.
There's a big window.
Yeah, there's a big window. You can feel the breeze. The eclipse that just happened a couple of days ago, I could have got a good look at that. In 87, there's none of that. There's a faded sort of piece of plastic. Yeah, sunroof. And in fact, for the eclipse, they covered it up with a black canvas, because they didn't want anyone to look at it for liability purposes. They didn't want anybody to sue them for burning up their corneas.
Looking at the sun.
Yeah, absolutely serious. And then, of course, you can't use the washer and dryer. You have to wash your clothes in the sink or the toilet.
With the fact that we are in this 20-day prison story marathon, I figured, we got you here, Yonni, and you're fresh home from being locked up.
Yeah.
Who better to really tell some stories about experiences that they went through than a guy who hasn't even been home from jail for 24 hours yet? Are you ready to relive some of this?
No, I'm not.
You haven't?
I'm not. I've been doing it for the last year, Joe. The last thing I want to do is rehash everything. But I told you I'd do you a favor, and golly, I hate, I'm a man that follows through on his promises, but this is one I just don't want to keep. But I'm a man of my word, so here I am.
But look, let's talk a little bit about. We'll do this like a little, not so much an interview nor interrogation, but let's do this more like a therapist session. Let's talk about what it was like first getting into the jail. Walk me through what's going through your mind as you're going back to jail after you've already served this prison sentence. What's your mind state?
Devastation. I was absolutely devastated. I had a lot of things going for me prior to becoming incarcerated, and there's a point where I knew that I was going back. That was the day before I tried to, I really tried to, I just didn't feel like psychologically I could deal with the, hitting the reset button, having to start over from scratch. I didn't know how much time I was going to do, but I felt like it was going to be at least a year, possibly 2 years, maybe 3, maybe 4. And I just didn't have it in me. At the time, I didn't feel like I had it in me to do it again. So
you're saying you were suicidal at this point?
Well, yeah. So I did. I made an attempt on my own life. I just didn't want to. It just wasn't worth it anymore.
The crazy thing about it is in my own personal case, every time that I was ever locked up, it was expected. Like I knew it was coming. I was living the type of lifestyle where, I knew sooner or later that was going to come with it. But when you're actually out there and you're trying to make steps in the right direction, you had started a business for yourself, you were doing good, and then one night of drinking led to an assault on what they consider to be a law enforcement officer, ends up with you having to serve this year in jail that you did.
Yeah, they just changed the statute. I certainly don't want to play, the role of a victim, because the bottom line is I don't drink, I'm not there. If I don't take that first drink, we're not having this conversation. We're having a different conversation. We're having a conversation. I've probably been on your show 30 times by now. My business is booming. The respect of the community, my family, and my own self-respect is right there. It's right there within me. And, and now it's a rebuilding process. This is it. I'm starting over again from scratch, and I'm not even 24 hours into it. So, yeah, it's you just don't expect to pay $50 to go to a show, a concert, and then leave with a felony, have your life in ruins. There's that sobering realization as well that hey man, as much as I wanted to be normal, because normal people can do that. Normal people can buy a ticket to a show, have a good time, come home, go to work the next day, and then maybe do it again, the following weekend. Coming to that realization that no, I'm not normal. In a world full of horses, they say a zebra, like in Alcoholics Anonymous, they say you don't ever see a zebra with horses, even though they've got 4 legs, they've got a mane and tail, they're built the same, but they don't hang out with each other.
Talk to us a little bit about what it was like during this time.
I've already talked to what's called my temporary sponsor, and his advice to me was to be as forthcoming and honest as I possibly can be. Now, that's, one-on-one, being able to talk to a person one-on-one. I mean, this is stuff that I'm embarrassed to talk about just if it was me and you. Now there's a camera on, and I'm potentially talking to hundreds, thousands, maybe more. So, yeah, it's kind of a stretch for me. This is not, not the easiest thing in the world to deal with. But
there's something that I believe personally, and it's the fact that with how I relive prison every day through After Prison Show, my experiences, interviewing people, whatever we may do here, I mean, it's almost like a constant reminder in my face that that's never where I want to go back to. And it also helps so many other people out there as well to be deterred from trying to go down that path. So with me saying that, allow this to be just a reminder for you reliving these experiences that you dealt with while you were serving this time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to keep it as fresh as possible, because one thing that, I don't know if you have any experience with this, my guess is you probably do, but most people who have been in a situation where, where they've been locked up before, the first couple of months, it's fresh. 6 months later, it's not as fresh. A year later, you don't remember any of it.
Right.
And that's what gets you back, because at this point,
you're talking about from coming home.
Yeah.
You're talking about being released, within those first couple of months, you're still thinking about prison. Then maybe 6 months later, you're not really thinking about it so much. And a year later, you're just completely forgotten about it. And just basically...
It's not going to happen to me.
Basically,
it's never
right
going to
back.
happen again. I got a bad break.
Right.
I ran into some bad luck. I mean, I'm a good guy. Everything's going to be fine.
I want to hear about something that you went through, something that you dealt with, a story of when you were locked up, something that was just crazy that you had to deal with.
Okay, so I think I touched upon this earlier with being down in '87. I mean, this is something that maybe people can relate to. If I was upstairs in the pods, there'd be 80 or 90 people. There's a system in place for like the television, something as simple as the television, watching TV. Up there, it rotates by room. Room 1 gets the TV for that day. So, the 8 to 10 people that are in room 1, there's 10 rooms in the pod. They would amongst themselves determine what they want to watch, because there's nothing to do. I mean, you've got books and you've got TV and then you've got poker. And that's in spades, and that's about it. That's about all you can do. So if you like watching television, you like movies, you're going to want to watch some TV. You want to get in front of that box, which is what they call it.
They call it what?
Looking at that box. They
Looking
call
at
it the trick box.
The trick
Man,
box.
you better watch out for that trick box. That trick box. Yeah, because it'll trick you up. And so going down to '87, to sort of dovetail into my original point, the craziest thing, literally television wars. Everybody wants to have their hands on that remote. There's one remote control, and there's 15 people in that block. And then, there's a struggle for this thing.
It's usually the alpha male prisoner in there who's going to be controlling this TV.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's divided by gangs. It can be divided by race. It could be the white guys. If there's more whites than blacks, or if there are more Mexicans than whites or blacks, or if there are more blacks than whites and Mexicans, the predominant, or if there's Bloods and Crips and Aryan Brotherhood, whoever has the strength in numbers is going to be the person to control the television. Let's take it back to Friday. If Debo's in the block, Debo's watching TV. If Debo wants to watch, and it's nuts, being down there. I can't tell you how many times I've had to look at and I went to college for filmmaking, believe it or not. And these freaking guys, there's a faction of people in there that love their 3 favorite shows or their 3 favorite channels. Lifetime.
Of course, Lifetime.
Lifetime.
You don't like Lifetime movies?
No, I'm a male in my 30s. I don't watch.
You're not in your. How old are you?
I'll be 28 next week.
Oh man.
You know that. No, I'm 40 years old. I mean, can you give me a year? Can I get that little bit of... No, I can't get that.
You're 40 years old. I'm 34 years old, and I've
Yes.
got way more gray hair than you. So
And I love that.
Yeah, and I mean, you're
like
definitely
that
in way
about
better
you.
shape than me. So, kudos to you for taking care of yourself while in there. We did get off topic here, and I mean, you've brought up a super interesting topic here, is this TV and just how the politics behind these cell blocks, these housing units go with who controls these TVs. How in upstairs, where it's almost like Beverly Hills of the jail, it's divided by room, everything's hunky-dory. Maybe if a TV show's coming on that the next cell wants to watch, they'll trade TV slots. But when you're down in that 87 in the dungeon, as it's referred to, when you're down in that dungeon,
That's
just
what it
like
is.
you say, it's either gangs or it's either those alpha male prisoners who are controlling the
that's
TV.
That's an element of frustration constantly. I mean, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had over the last couple of months, or that have maybe been had about my particular group.
Wait, about what?
About the television. Like, hey, what are we going to do about this? This dude right here.
You say your particular group, so what do you mean?
We've got our friends that watch certain shows. It was like we got into this Big Brother. All right. I mean,
You're smiling about this. This obviously made you happy.
I did. I love it. Hey, listen. This is something I would never watch on the street, but Big Brother comes on three times a week, and
yeah.
you want to do. I want to do whatever I can to take myself
Out of jail.
And there's what they call, man. Hey, look, man. Let's watch Big Brother, man. There's some shots. There's girls bent over. They got the cleavage. I mean,
You mentioned shots, and this is a term that people may not be familiar with. Can you just explain a little bit about
so
what
shots,
a shot is?
Shot is going to be a girl that's either wearing revealing clothing or bent over, wearing yoga pants in a sexually suggestive position. Guys want shots. People with a limit, like me, I've got a vivid imagination. I can remember the last girl I slept with. I can sort of envision that, and then sort of go, where I need to go in terms of because
Right.
you don't see women. I mean, even the guards down there, there are no female guards. You might see a nurse every once in a while, and they look like roller pigs. I mean, they're just
They look like what, roller pig?
roller pigs. But if you want to see an attractive woman, you're going to need to find a shot. And a shot is either going to be in a magazine or it's going to be on a show. And you run into situations where, with guys, gunners, you got shots, you got gunners, and that's one of the things about jails and prisons is there's a lot of like firearm terminology. Okay.
Yeah.
A gunner, a shot is a shot of a woman, a beautiful woman.
It's a picture or an image from like TV or a magazine, like you said.
Yeah, she could be bent over gardening, but if she's bent over in the right spot, that's a shot. And that's something that a man is going to take to the shower with them or take to the rack. They're going to put the blanket up and they're going to gun. Now, gunning is masturbating. You run into situations where gunning is very popular in jail, and this is where somebody will, see like a nurse or something like that, sort of hide, find a place where they can sort of conceal themselves, drop their pants, and gun.
Right.
And this is such a, like you said, this is a savage environment, and in the bowels of the jail where I was at, it's much more sort of savage than it is upstairs. I mean,
Absolutely.
people's base instincts really come out. It's much more violent, it's much more carnal, and so that what they call it, the gun game. You get that gun game. I mean, the guys will conceal themselves, drop their pants, and masturbate, and the woman is she's handing out pills. Or she's handing out paperwork. She's doing nothing in a sexually suggestive manner at all, but just the mere fact that she's a female has brought out a physical reaction that they feel like must be released. I got to release the demon.
The demon being the semen.
The semen demon.
I've talked about a lot of the things that you're bringing up now, but again, with the fact that you're fresh home, less than 24 hours since you've been released. This is stuff that you were just dealing with yesterday.
Yeah, so we had a guy, his name was Pee Wee, which is like a sort of a misnomer. The dude was like 6'5", 240. His name's Pee Wee. He comes into the block. See, one thing about the blocks down in 87 is you could have 10 guys that get along together swimmingly. The vibe is great. Everyone respects one another, and all it takes is one guy to come in. And for example, we had sort of a rotation worked out with the television. We always left the remote in a common area, so anyone could have access to it. And I would say, hey Joe, Animal Kingdom's coming on at 9 o'clock. It's what's called a locked-in show. A locked-in show is something that we, no matter what else comes on television on that day, the locked-in show takes precedence over anything else. And so we had a couple of shows that were locked in. We had Animal Kingdom at 9 o'clock. We had Snow on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, you had Big Brother at 8 and Snowfall at 10. On Thursdays, we had Big Brother at 9 and Queen of the South at 10. Sundays would be Big Brother and then Claws at 10. And then as shows come and go, people glom on to other, locked-in shows. And we had a guy that came in that wasn't respecting the locked-in shows. I mean, he was trying to debo the remote. He was trying to run the pod. He felt like he was an alpha. And then, so there are a lot of ways that and this was something I was dealing with a couple of days ago. Now, it turns out I had been locked up with this guy before, so I was able to, he knew we had a mutual respect for one another. He didn't respect anybody else in the block, but he respected me because we had been in a cell. He knew how I carried it. He knew how I carried myself. And he knew that I didn't play a lot of games. And you can't play a lot of games down there in 87 because there's nobody to help you out. It's not like it is upstairs in the pods where there's a million cameras. There's no cameras in 87.
None.
And there's no COs coming by. And they could hear somebody, you could be yelling for your life, and the odds of somebody coming is slim and none. If they happen to be walking in, you might get saved. But if they're not, it's on.
I can just imagine the type of stories you could tell in that regard alone with just the violence that took place down in the 87 section. I mean, I saw my fair share of violence while I was down there. I fought, got beat up. I don't even think I won one single fight down in the 87 because, again, you've got your more savage prisoners down here. The guys who just can't do right upstairs, and for whatever reason, either because they can't do right or because of their charges, they're down in this dungeon.
Yeah, because, if you're in jail already, we're not dealing with the best of the best of society. But when you get down to 87, like you said, for the most part, the guys down in 87, they're there for a reason. They've been in trouble continuously in the jail. You've got rapists, you've got murderers, you've got child molesters, you've got everything, how home invaders. You've got people that are committing aggravated robberies, aggravated assaults. You don't have the guys that got their third DUI. You don't have the guy that was shoplifted from Walmart. You've got the dumbest of the dumb, the toughest of the tough, the savagest of the savagest. I don't think that's a word, but I think it was 6 days ago. There was a movie called Inception. Now, look, Inception is one of my favorite movies. I love it. I love the director, Christopher Nolan. I love Leo. It's just, I love its mind-bending nature. Just Inception is I love the movie. And a couple of us wanted to watch it. And there was a guy that wanted to watch, it was Pee Wee. He wanted to watch, I think it was America's Got Talent. He said, there's a little girl from Virginia Beach. She came in. Here's the thing. Over the last couple of months, we haven't been watching America's Got Talent. Not taking anything away from America's Got Talent. I'm sure it's a terrific show. I mean, I've seen it. It's okay, whatever. But that wasn't part of her locked-in schedule, okay? And so, I cleaned up every day. That's another thing. If you clean up, if you clean the toilets, and you clean the common areas, typically you're going to have rights to that remote control. This guy didn't respect that. And so I had a guy in there named Tay. And he was sort of, and Tay and Shane, and they were riding on the Inception tip. We were all going to watch Inception. Well, Pee Wee, before lockdown, had snuck off with the remote, and he wanted to watch America's Got Talent, and said he wasn't giving up the remote. So words were exchanged, and it came to blows, literally over remote control, over America's Got Talent. On the street, I don't think anybody on the street, needs to worry about
fighting behind America's Got Talent.
Yeah, yeah, but that's what it was. I mean, and it was a bloodbath.
Talk about this fight. Like, who was it? Multiple people trying to jump on this Pee Wee guy? Was this Pee Wee guy like thrashing shit in here? Was he really this alpha male that everybody thought he was?
No, I mean he had a fight game. I mean he had a fight game, but he wasn't the the boss that he was claiming to be. I mean he had this guy was about 6'4", 240. Tay, 5'9", 180, 190. Pee Wee was dominating him in the beginning. He used a lot of wrestling tactics. Tried to shoot a lot and just shoot and slam. His hands really weren't A1. So he did get a couple licks in on Tay and then put him on the ground. Turns out Tay used to wrestle for Oscar Smith, a local high school. He wrestled for 3 years. He was able to get out of it, and then his hands are straight fire. His hands are straight fire. He knocked Pee Wee down with combinations 3 times, dropped him, and so another older head named CY came in and broke it up before the police came in because they were about to serve trays. They were about to serve dinner trays.
You guys get to watch.
We watched Inception.
Yeah, that was the main question.
And then I had to worry about the other thing. There was a couple of guys that wanted to jump in for Pee Wee.
They were bandwagon.
Yeah, once Pee Wee was starting to get worked. That's when you find that's when lines, once the fight breaks out, especially in '87, there's like a bloodlust. And once violence starts to happen, there's so much pent-up aggression and just like a burning need to sort of express yourself violently. I mean, just to get that out of your system, be able to hit someone, is a huge release for a lot of people that are, that I don't personally, it's not something that I want to engage in. But I will defend myself, and I was willing to defend Tay. Tay was a good friend of mine. I did want to watch Inception, so I'm in the Inception camp.
What would you have been more willing and inclined to fight for your friend Tay or for this movie Inception?
For my friend Tay.
Okay.
I mean, if somebody jumped in, I was coming right behind him.
But what you're saying is as this fight breaks out between Tay and Pee Wee, you start to see the line being drawn in the sand. Those prisoners who are really backing up Pee Wee, and then the other
right. So there was these 2 guys, Savage and Ace, and once Pee Wee started getting handled, once he was down on his back, they're right on the bleeding edge of going to jump in.
Right.
I made it clear along with another guy, Rich. Hey, we're right here. So you make eye contact with him, you look at him, and you say, hey, look, I'm just letting you know, if you make that move, I'm right behind you. I'm on your back.
Right.
And again, I'm a pussycat. You know what I mean? I'm not, in spite of my charge, I'm not a violent person. The last thing I want is any sort of physical conflict, because generally it doesn't really solve anything. But you have to, in that environment, you're going to get walked all over if you don't stand up for yourself as a man. And, that's the situation that we're in. And like I said, we watched Inception. Pretty good movie. I enjoyed it.
What a phenomenal end to that story right there. That couldn't have been any more stellar right there. I just got to say, we watched Inception and I enjoyed it. It's just an unbelievable thing having you back out here in the free world. I want to do everything in my power to motivate and inspire you and try to keep you on the right track to make sure you don't have to go through this anymore, man. I mean, you had something so amazing going for yourself when you first came home from prison the last time. I know you can do the same thing this time as well. And you got to make this time the time that counts.
Yeah, this is it for me. I don't have another bid left in me. I mean, I just don't. I'm at the end of my rope in terms of being incarcerated. I mean, the amount of pain that it causes psychologically, is just brutal. Yeah, man. Whatever I need to do this time, this is it. There's no more games. Like I said, I'm not a kid anymore. It's time to step up.
Yonni, again, it's great having you back out here with us, and I look forward to being able to bring you back on After Prison Show and allow or hope that you will tell us more of what you've been through, share your experiences with all of us. And if that's something that you guys would like to see, I hope that you will smash that like button, leave a comment, and let me know. Until next time, from me and also Yonni, less than 24 hours since being released, with one last fresh start at life. Enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted, and make the most of every day.